Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of The Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rich and I run and operate The Hard Compound. We are a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, from touring cars to single-seaters, NASCAR, rallying, bikes, and anything else you can think of in between, really. And we cover these in the form of race reviews, race previews, any breaking news, throwbacks on this day's driver and rider birthdays, or just any photos of cars and bikes that we like, really. This is all done on our Facebook, Twitter, and our Instagram. 2 or 3 posts every day, so do give us a follow on there. Search for The Hard Compound on any of those 3 platforms, and you'll find us. Come along for all the fun. We also do live video interviews, as you might have noticed, such as this one. These are streamed live on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube channel. Haven't found a way to do Instagram as well. We're just waiting for the thumbs up from Instagram, and we'll start doing that. But we've had some fantastic guests from across the motorsport spectrum, all of which are saved as well in the video section on our Facebook and in the live section on our YouTube channel. So do go and check them out, just to give you a bit of a flavour of who we've spoken to. We're rapidly approaching 100 interviews, which is incredible. But we've had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Mr. Mario Andretti, Jackie Ickx, and John Watson very recently. Absolutely incredible talking to those guys. We've also spoken with the likes of Mr. Mark Blundell, with David Brabham, Stephanie Hansen, Derek Warwick, the original Stig, Perry McCarthy, Karen Chandhog, Roberto Guerrero, Raul Boisel, Mika Salo, Ari Lyondike, Carl Wendlinger, Emanuele Pirro, Nicholas Prost, Freddie Hunt, Paul Page, Catherine Legg, Alonso Jr., Lynn St. James. But if you're tuning in tonight, you might like your touring cars. We've spoken with a number of people, past and present, from the world of touring cars, with the likes of Dick Bennett, David Addison, Louise Goodman. Just last week, we spoke with Michael Crease. We've also spoken with Steve Soper, John Cleland, Anthony Reid, Gabriele Tarquini, Rickard Rydell, Andy Prio, Tom Coronel, Fabrizio Giovanardi, Jerry Marni, Jason Plato, many, many, many others. So do go and check those out on our Facebook and our YouTube, but don't do it just yet, because we've got another fantastic guest tonight. Not only is he a very, very good racing driver, he's a very successful businessman within the motorsport world, with his helmet design and painting business. We'll come to that later. So do join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Joe Tanner.
Hello.
And there he is. How are you, Joe?
There he is. What an introduction.
Yeah, it's a long one, wasn't it? It's just getting longer. I sort of need to be wary that people don't want to listen to me; they want to listen to you. Anyway,
I see a comment already. Businessman. I laughed at that one as well, Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan Falconbridge, one of our very, very early guests. Evening, Ryan. You're a businessman. You got a business. You're making money.
Yeah, by accident. By accident, perhaps. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, first things first. How are you? How's things?
Yeah, good. It's really hot up here. Sweating in the workshop. It's not unusual for me to be here this time of night, but I'm not used to it being this warm. 22 degrees, I think it is out there. So sweating away, trying to get ready to go to Oulton Park tomorrow. It's difficult when it's race week, because it's a 3.5-day week or a 3-day week sometimes, rather than a 5-day week. So we still have to try to put out at least 2 helmets. So trying to do that in a short space of time, shorter than usual, is difficult, especially when it's hot. I get really irritable at the best of times.
Yeah.
But when I'm trying to do this when it's hot, it really gets to me. So last night was a late one, about 11:30, I think, last night. But hopefully not as late tonight. I need to pack.
Yeah, and it's even worse when people like me come and grab you for chats, isn't it?
No, not at all. It's a nice thing.
Obviously, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat. Obviously, I've been meaning to ask you for a while, because obviously there's a couple of strings to your motorsport or more. I've been meaning to come on for a chat for a while, but it was good that we finally managed to get it sorted. Obviously, we caught up very briefly at Snetterton the other week, which was very good. It's all going rather well. You've had a good start to the season, haven't you? Which we'll touch on later, but it started okay, isn't it?
So far, it can all go wrong like that. But yeah,
true.
It's been a good start. I think we're third overall at the minute.
Third in the standings.
Too far for second, so, and we're not even at the halfway point. I think Saturday will be the halfway point.
Crikey. That's come around quickly, isn't it?
Yeah,
My
but the
goodness.
first half of the year was really crammed together with the first 3 rounds within like 8 weeks or whatever. So yeah, the second half of the year is a lot more spread out. I think we've got 7 weeks off after this.
Oh,
Be good.
all right.
Yeah.
Plenty of helmet painting time.
Yeah. That's the list here. It's getting bigger and bigger, staring at me.
That's good though. Sign of a good businessman. Just want to turn my attention very quickly to the comment section. Hello, folks. We've had a load of people comments already. James Harmon, who have we got? Defan Evans, Tracy Hinkley, Oliver Taylor, evening. Ross Cuthbert, Ryan Falconbridge, yeah, cheeky already. Good stuff. And the Hybrid Tune guys, Kevin Whitewood is in as well from British Touring Car Chat. And he said, Kevin Whitewood, he said he's purchased one of only 2 Joe Tanner mugs from DC.
Exactly.
I think we know who's got the other one.
Yeah.
Hey, there it is.
That'll be my morning tea mug there, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to make some more of those. Happy days. But thanks everyone for tuning in. If you do have any comments or questions, do put them in. We'll see them in real time and we'll try and work them into the chat. So you might have noticed we've got a little tribute here to Joe, the sparring behind, but it is really warm behind me, so I'm going to have to remove it, I'm afraid. It's a bit hot. Yes, so we better get on with it, really. I mean, what we like to do, if I may, is start right at the very start. How did you first get interested in motorsport?
It's a strange one for me because it's not in the family, which I think is quite unusual. A lot of motorsport is second, third, fourth generation, but for me, I was kind of the first one, really. My granddad raced motorbikes, but just at a sort of club level, and I don't know what it was. Ever since a little kid, always had a car and was just absolutely obsessed with it. Always have been. My dad took me to the 1993 Spanish Grand Prix. I climbed up the stairs at the back of the grandstand, and it would have been great to say it was Senna, but it wasn't. It was Andretti in the McLaren that came past, and I think from that moment, I just became absolutely obsessed with it.
Wow, and 93, that was a time when
they were noisy.
When the F1 cars, one went past and you were deaf for a week.
And I was only a little kid, so it was just like, wow.
And I had a similar thing in '88. A Ferrari was the first car. I think it was Gerhard Berger went past me at Silverstone in the qualifying in '88. I remember my dad saying, it can't be that loud. It'll be fine. I won't need ear defenders. One car went past. I had ear defenders on. And it rattled my brain. Mm-hmm. He suddenly shot off and came back with another pair of ear defenders because they were proper noisy.
Yeah, you see that as a kid, and then you spend the next 10 years trying to be a Formula One driver, and then you quickly grow up and realize, actually, that's not achievable for normal people,
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. Sounds like we had a very similar start. I mean, you've obviously done far better out of it than I have. I just talk about it, but no, what a cool place to start. And the 1993 McLaren was fantastic, wasn't it? I was saying it was impressive that you saw Michael Andretti going past you.
Yeah,
because he didn't have the best year, did he?
It's one of the 3 laps he did. I'm joking.
I'm trying to get Michael on here. I better not show him that. I've had his dad on, but there's a great question from Michael Crease. Goodness me, we need to come to that one later on when we're talking about helmets. Sit tight, Creasy. That's a great question. But so you've obviously got to you've seen F1, you've seen the McLaren go past, you've kind of got the bug. How long did it take before you were pestering someone to have a go?
Pestering my dad pretty much non-stop to go karting. It took a couple of years. It could have taken longer, but I think I was probably 8, maybe something like that. I got a go-kart, and it just quickly accelerated from then. I think it was his hobby as much as mine, but we were just complete and utter beginners. Like my first ever race without my novice plate was around the British Championship. And Lewis Hamilton was there, and it was just like we didn't know what we were doing. I wasn't massively successful in karting, really. My dad traveled a lot with his work, so he ended up going to work for Nissan in Barcelona. So I did 2 years of the Spanish Championship, and I never raced a kart in Scotland at all. It was British Championship and then the Spanish Championship, or the Catalunya Championship, that I did.
Wow. I mean, just to think, I don't think I've spoken to anyone who's raced abroad that young. I think you're probably the first one who's sort of done it.
It wasn't like a lot of the young karting kids in this country go and do World or European Championship, but that's a different thing. I was doing the national series. It just happened to be the handy one to do because my dad was based in Barcelona.
Just there. Very nice.
Yeah, so but even out there, I think the second year we went with a proper team, the Works Tony Kart team for Spain. But the first year was just lad and dad have a go, like a 3-4-year-old chassis. And I think when it rained, we'd go to the front, and when it was dry, I don't think I had the strength in these skinny arms to hang on to it with the grip they had. And yeah, it was good fun, and I learned a lot, but it was certainly not massive success.
No, sure. I guess all the Spanish guys, they weren't used to seeing the rain out there. I mean, they don't get as well, certainly don't get as much of it as we do.
Yeah, I think in August it rains a lot there. Yeah.
On the coast there. Yeah, what else have we got?
I can't talk and read, I've realised.
That's right. I am going to sort of I kind of scan over them. I am going to come in and read them. Oh, Will Orton. Hello, Will.
My teammate, both my teammates.
Yeah, good stuff. We got the whole hybrid tune crew in, which is fantastic.
My hero. He's my hero. Winning. What is it? He's done 5 races in the JCW and won 3 of them.
I mean, it's not too bad, is it?
No,
it's very good stuff. Good stuff. We'll have to come on for a chat, Will. But not if you beat Joe. No, it's not allowed. Hybrid tune still here. Good stuff. Top step. Yeah. I think we'll all explode when he finally gets on the top step of the podium at the mini challenge. Only a matter of time. Absolutely, it's coming. We are going to come to the mini challenge very soon. So you're racing out in Spain, and obviously you return back to good old Blighty. You know, and you've started doing the racing here. I mean, when did you sort of? I mean, through the research I've done, I saw that you started in cars. I think around 2002, so what, 20 odd years ago.
2001 Zip Formula Winter Series is where I started, which is a championship that Martin Hines introduced. It was sort of named Bridging the Gap, I think is what it was. It was to bridge the gap between karting and Formula Ford Zetec at the time, which was pretty high level and big budget. So it was kind of
and obviously Martin's a legend of karting.
Yeah, but Martin helped me. Without him, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, obviously he was trying to get it off the ground, and he was trying to get as many drivers as he could. And I just pestered him until he had a rule of you needed to have 2 cars in a team. You couldn't have single entries, which is where the guys like me with limited budget could find a place to be. So yeah, 2002. I didn't do the full year again. I think probably for the first half of the year, but it was enough. It was enough to get started.
Okay.
And I was doing from Aberdeen, and a lot of the rounds I did with the megabus. Get the megabus down to London, and then the train out, and get a mechanic to pick me up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a long old track. As I said, my wife's from Aberdeen, and it's a long way from anywhere. I mean, Dundee's seen us pretty close, and that's still an hour and a half away. But it's amazing that you, because I've always wondered this. Folk who are based in Aberdeen, also there's you and your colleague Hannah, who we're going to talk about later on, who was up in Aberdeen for a while. The logistics of racing, especially at that low level, must have been a real handicap for you. I mean, okay, we had the megabus, which helped, but did you ever feel like you were a bit of a disadvantage compared to anyone else in the series? Just because of geography.
It doesn't even cross my mind now. I think if you live in Scotland and you're not racing in the Scottish Championship, traveling is just, it is what it is. It's normal. You don't even think about it. You always allow an extra day. You're always dead on the Monday. It's just normal. I think being away up here, if we want to do anything that's not local, we have to travel. It's not, it doesn't make any, I hear people whining about, oh, it's going to take me 2 hours to get home. I'm like, it's going to take me 9. I gotta fly.
When I was at Brands Hatch for the Superbikes, and I bumped into Duncan, into Duncan Vincent, and he was obviously doing the commentary. And I said,
Duncan says he's going to watch this, apparently, but I haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, Duncan, if you're tuning in, say hello. We like Duncan, he's a good lad. And he said that, I said, oh, are you going to overnight tonight? He's like, no, I'll just drive home.
Yeah, he's mad. Yeah, I was speaking to him about it because he was quizzing me about the flights, because I've become quite good at piecing the flights together in hire cars. And he's been driving everywhere. And he did Thruxton home and then work the next day. Crazy.
Wow. No, fair play to him. But no, I mean, fair play to you guys, obviously, because, but as you say, I guess you're used to it. But when you were in the, excuse me, in the Zip Formula, was it just a case of going there, as you said, getting down there, getting your mechanic together and just learning about racing? I mean, did you set any targets for it, or was it just a case?
No, it was just, I think being there was the biggest achievement. Managing to pull off to actually race at all, was kind of the achievement. But you're always learning. I learned a lot. I'd never raced on any of these circuits before that I'd seen on TV, and it was amazing.
I guess it's just a good experience in getting started. I've got here for that for 2002, I think it was. You had like 10 races. Are there any in those early days that really stick out as either being good or bad?
They were all no, they weren't all bad. I think my first ever race, I finished 4th or 5th, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And we thought, here we go. And then I never really got near that again. I used to be awful off the start. I can remember just being like absolutely abysmal off the start. Then I would go through a period of time of being really bad off the start, but trying to fix it at the first corner and just having a huge accident. And I did that. Like, I just remember being so annoyed at myself. And there was a lot of learning, I think, in the beginning. But I mean, still learning now. I still make a mess of it quite regularly.
It's not as easy as everyone makes
it.
It's not as easy as everyone thinks. It's not just getting in a car and driving, as people think. But I mean, like nonetheless, even if, you know, in your words, they're all bad, you still made the step up. Was it 2004 Graham Brunton Racing into the Zetec series? How did all that come about?
So in 2002, when I was doing Zit Formula, I was still living in Aberdeen. But then I started to work at Knockhill. I think 2002 is when I started at Knockhill. And I was traveling backward and forward from Aberdeen, like getting up at 7, doing 2 hours, arriving here at 9 o'clock, working till 5, and then driving home. So I'd leave Aberdeen at 7 and get back at 7. Wow. But I was just part-time, so I was getting paid decent, and it was the equivalent of what my friends were getting paid in Aberdeen. So I was doing that and doing the British Formula Ford stuff that I was trying to sort of cobble together, and it just wasn't working. When I started at Knockhill, Graham Brunton, who's actually my next door neighbour now, strangely enough, all these years later, he ran a Formula Ford Zetec team. And I can remember thinking, well, this is the logical thing for me to do. I work at Knockhill. I moved from Aberdeen to Dunfermline in 2003, I think, end of 2003. And it just made sense to do the Scottish Championship with Graham. And it was a good competitive championship then. Alan Cacodia dominated it for a couple of years, Andrew's younger brother. So the pace was a good, strong pace at the time. Every year, the British Championship would come and visit, and we'd all enter as a guest. But it was competitive. It was good, and the cars were mega. The Zetecs.
Yeah, I spoke with Catherine Legg, and she did some similar racing.
That was around about the same era. Yeah, she had a 2000 Magal, which I ended up. I don't know. She crashed at Air Rouge, had a big accident. And we were always trying to work out if my car was that one or if it was the sister one of that car. But they were very similar looking, the one that she rolled at Rouge,
Yeah, she sort of did mention it, and she said that the car did get put back together and moved on. So maybe
we were not sure if it was or not, but yeah.
But there were cracking cars, as you say. I mean, and pardon my ignorance. With it being the Scottish Championship, obviously it wasn't just done at Knockhill. I mean, which
no, it was in those days. It wasn't until later that we started getting away rounds. But in those days, and we didn't run reverse direction here. It was just the same. You know, sometimes it'd be wet, dry, but that was the only variable. The circuit, really? Every round was all at Knockhill back in the early mid 2000s.
Because that did cross my mind. I thought, can't think of too many others that are up there, but
Yeah, and it was annoying because the last round would always clash with the festival. So it's not as if we could go and do the festival. It always clashed for some odd reason when we were doing it. So I never did the Formula Ford Festival.
Which is a shame because obviously, even now, it was huge in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and it was still pretty big. That still is now, but what a shame! What a shame. That would have been cool. But I've said in that 2004 series, you got a couple of podiums that year.
That was the first taste of any real success, I think. And that's when I started thinking, okay, maybe this is the way to go. Maybe we can do it. And it was the following year that I got the Magal that we thought was the ex-Catherine Legg car. It just worked perfectly. Couldn't stop winning.
I mean, it all clear to me. I've looked at the stats on this. I mean, you're on the podium in all 10 rounds. You took 5 poles, 3 wins. I mean, that's not a bad year, is it?
It was a good year. Yeah, we also did the one-off round of the British Championship, and I qualified on the front row with Joe D'Agostino, who I don't think he races anymore, but he was an American driver, and Charlie Donnelly was there. I didn't win the race. I tried to take the lead and went off. Classic Joe, but it was a really good weekend, and I think it was a good year overall, actually.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, and obviously you'd had the year under your belt. Were the expectations a bit higher that year? Was it a case of, we've had a couple of podiums, we can have a real go at this? Did you expect to go as well as you did?
No, I think it was a shock at the start of the year, but you quickly get used to it. If you go and have a good first round and win a race, that sets the tone for the rest of the year, really. So
Yeah.
it was good. I think it came down to the final race between me and Alan, but yeah, his plug lead fell off. I was ahead of him at the time, but it certainly made it easier.
You just got to get it in there that you were ahead of him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd have won
I
anyway.
was ahead of him by about 3 inches when it fell off, so that's fine.
That's all right. Was it? If it doesn't, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile.
Exactly.
Winning's winning. Happy days. I've also seen that you did 2 rounds of the Formula Renault UK series.
Oh yeah, that was in 05 as well with Richard Orenshaw from Hillspeed. He watched the British Championship race where I'd been kind of near the front. And then he asked if I wanted to do the Knockhill round. It was only the Knockhill round that I did in Formula Renault. Who won it then? Who was in it? I can't think of any big names that were in it there, but it was massively competitive. It was like I'd never driven the car before. I think we did a little bit of running on an airfield and then straight into free practice at Knockhill. But again, that was my first experience of sort of slicks and wings and things, and it was a mega experience.
I was going to say, I mean, that was your first experience of a wing car.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a bit of karting and I've driven a couple of wing cars, but so I don't really know in depth the differences. But did it just feel different? Was it?
That was crazy. Yeah, I mean, in the Formula Ford we were doing 54s, and I think we were doing 49s in the Formula Renault around here. So yeah, in a straight line, it wasn't that much quicker. But when you had the aero and all the rest of it, which I had to learn in free practice, and I think both the races rained. I think it was like torrential rain. Probably these days you wouldn't run it in that kind of weather. Right. Yeah, just a great experience. And I still keep in touch with Richard now. I see him all the time. Still running Hillspeed with his GB3, GB4 cars, I think he's doing. And I still see him, and he knows I'm a sucker for it because he keeps trying to get me to paint him a helmet in return for a test day in an F3 car, because he knows I always wanted to drive a Formula 3 car.
And he knows you'll do it, yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm too old for F3, for God's sake.
I was just saying that year, actually, the champion was Oliver Jarvis.
Yes, yeah, there we go. That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty good, pretty cool. Excuse me. Again, just moving to just fast forward. I mean, I guess there was no real possibility of getting into the championship full time because of.
No, I mean, I tried. My weakness seems to be backing, and it seems odd because everybody who knows me is like, "Oh, you must know so many people in the industry, and you must be able to do this and that." But they just want me to paint their helmet. They don't want, it's very difficult to do that, and which is why I chuckled when you called me a businessman, because I don't see myself as that. I see people putting together deals. They've been in the sport for 2 or 3 years and they're putting together some big money deals. And it's always been a kind of a weakness of mine, I think, a little bit. So I had a little go at it to try to do Formula Renault the following year. I gave up pretty quickly. But I really wanted to go to America. I love IndyCar. Now I watch it, on Sky Sports.
It's the best. I love it. I always try and shoehorn IndyCar into a chat. So thank you for doing it for me.
You're not going to be a Formula One driver, but when you're in your early 20s and you're racing single seaters, winning at a little level, that would have been amazing. I can't remember what it was. I needed something like 40 grand or something to go out to America and do FF 2000, I think it was at the time. And I had a small window to try to find it and didn't. But I think in the long run, I would have probably been scared by the time I got to an oval anyway. But I certainly love IndyCar.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's fantastic. There's a race this weekend. Looking forward to it. Just quickly, have you been up to the Indy 500 yet?
No, but it lands on my birthday every year. So I really want to do it. It's on the list.
I went last year. Do it. It's just the best. It's incredible. Yeah. So obviously IndyCar sadly didn't come to be. I've got 2006. You did a handful of races in the Formula Ford GB with kart start.
Yeah. Craig Lockhart. He ran a Scottish team. He'd stepped up to the British Championship the year before, and then for that year he bought a couple of Van Diemen's. So we went to the first round and it was okay, but then I had brake failure at Oulton Park and did so much damage. That was it. That was the year done pretty much. I think the rest of 06 I just sat out thinking, well, what am I going to do now?
And that was just quickly, because anyone who knows anything about Formula Ford knows Van Diemen, and they're like the car. They certainly were back when I was growing up. was that a good car to drive, say, compared to the Scottish?
Yeah, it was the arrival of the Ray chassis. I think that year. I think Peter Dempsey. I don't think he won the championship, but it was him and Nathan Freak in the McGow. They were fighting at the front, so it was the kind of the weaker year of the Van Diemen. Not that I'm making any excuses, but it was still a great car and a great championship. I'd have loved to have just been able to do a bit more of it, and I think without the accident, we probably would have.
Yeah, sure. But the accident.
My whole life is just a series of park seasons that start with the best intention and end generally with an accident.
Yeah. I mean, just mentioning about like part seasons and things kind of leads on to the next sort of 2 or 3 years. I've seen that you actually raced in the Formula Ford 1600 in Ireland. You raced in the GB Championship.
That was
Northeastern zone and in Denmark.
Yeah, the death of the Zetec was at the end of 06 or the end of 05, start of 06. The Zetec died and they brought out the Duratec. And it was a bigger budget and it was never really where I was going to be. But in Scotland, 1600 Formula Ford had started to kick off and it was massive and it was huge in Ireland, and they started bringing the Irish Championship here, and it was a really big scene. So that's kind of where I focused my attention to racing 1600 Formula Ford with Rory Butcher and Wayne Boyd, and Peter Dempsey was the main guy at the time, Graham Carroll, all these guys. And it was a good few years. I don't think I did a full season. I think 09 was probably the year that was me and Rory. I think I gave up with 2 or 3 rounds to go because I couldn't catch him in the points.
He was up the road. It was just spending money after that, I guess, was it?
Yeah.
One thing I did see, though, I don't know if it was 07 or 08, was it the BRDC Golden Helmet race, which is quite cool given what you're doing now. But you took
classic bit of Joe Luck, really.
But you took pole, the fastest lap, podium, pretty good.
The race was there was so many. It was like 47 cars here at Knockhill for this Golden Helmet one-off event, but they split it into 2 odds and evens for qualifying. It was wet, and I ended up quickest in my group, which was going to be either pole or second, depending on which side of the grid was the quicker session. And then in the second session with Peter Dempsey and the likes in it, the real quick guys, that I thought, well, I'm definitely going to be second. Oil got spilt, so just a bit of Joe Luck, and I ended up on pole. I think I led the race for a while. Peter Dempsey won, and I think Wayne Boyd was second, and I was third. But that was just a one-off race, but it was enough. A lot of the time, I was trying to raise budget for a year, couldn't raise the money, so I would just focus all my attention on one round and to try to make the best show that I could in one round. And if I could do that, then it was keeping me going. I've kind of become the master of the one-off.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. And it looks like you've just turned up and done it, but you've not. There's a lot of preparation going into just one weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing behind the scenes, isn't it? Say, he's only done that race, and then he did the 5th round and the 9th round and the 11th round, and that was it. And
with 17 test days.
Yeah, with all the bits in between, great to see. Yeah. All the stats don't always tell don't tell all the story. I mean, again, just from looking around, I mean, there's a couple of little gaps in your racing sort of life, obviously for the reasons that we've mentioned. But you've done a lot of like race tutoring at Knockhill, things like that, and like driver coaching and things. When did all that start happening and coming together? And
well, I was doing that straight away because I was racing in British Championship Formula Ford or the Zip Formula Ford way back in the early 2000s. I had an ARDS license, so I could instruct straight away. I was a part-time instructor at Knockhill in the early days, and then I went full-time, was on a salary and worked for the circuit for, I lose track of time, but certainly over 10 years, maybe 11, 12 years or something. I worked here just as a driver coach, doing the experience days, and had a great time.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to make a living.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
Driving fast, and obviously with like Rory and
it was me, Rory, Johnny Adam, and all that lot. All mucking in, and like we do marshalling as well in the evenings to make extra money, and it was good times.
Yeah,
the old days.
Happy days. I mean, we'll come to the business very shortly, but it was around that time that you set it up, wasn't it? We're talking around 2010 here.
2010, yeah.
Obviously, we'll get into all the details and the bits and pieces soon, but were you always quite arty or into design, or was it always an interest?
Yeah,
something
always been super arty. When I left school, I went to art college in Aberdeen to Gallowgate Art College, literally for 2 months. Like I like the graphic-y stuff, which is kind of similar to what I'm doing now. But at the time I lived half an hour outside of Aberdeen and I had like a 50 scooter. So the traveling in and out to college, I just couldn't be done with it, especially when I was turning up and having to draw like a vase with flowers. It just wasn't my thing. So I dropped out and decided I was just going to be a Formula One driver instead.
Easy, much easier.
At the time.
Yeah, happy days. But that's the thing though with art. I mean, obviously those who are into it are really into it, but there's the whole history and the different styles and the influence.
I'm not an airbrush artist
and all that stuff. And you just want to
like, freehand stuff is a totally different thing to what I do and what I've ended up doing and what I've ever really been interested in. I've never, I can't sit down and sketch a dog or a horse or something. It would look like a stick man. I can't do that. It's the graphic-y stuff that I seem to enjoy.
Yeah, which is cool. It's a cool way to get into it. I mean, I've read somewhere that you did, was it an airbrushing course?
Yeah, so I always wanted to do, like, I remember messing around with crash helmets when I was in karting with like aerosol tins in the garage and stuff.
Right.
Not having a clue what I was doing. But then I decided I wanted to have a go at it, but purely as a hobby, like just to be able to do it on the side. So I went and did a course, and there's like a course which shows you the real basics of it, like the masking and the preparation and the safety side of it, the do's and the don'ts, things you can remove, things you can't remove, all that kind of stuff. So I went and did that. That was in Coventry, actually. I went down. It was a 2-day course, went and did that, came back up to Scotland. I think that must have been the end of 2009, because I had a painted crash helmet that was painted by JLF, Jason, still a good friend of mine, one of the top painters in the country. He painted mine, but Rory had a plain white helmet. So as soon as I got back, literally like 2 days later, I said to Rory, I'll paint your crash helmet. And he wanted, I said, what do you want? And he showed me a Kimi Räikkönen replica at the time.
Yeah.
So I did that one. And like within 6 months, that was it. I was just absolutely snowed under with crash helmets. It was just like the right situation to be in with my friends at the time, all racing and working at Knockhill. All of a sudden, they could see a free paint job from the friend, which is basically how it started.
So it was never really on your radar to say, oh, I'm going to set up a business doing this.
No, even now,
you kind of fell into it almost.
Yeah, I just don't know what happened. It just all went wrong, basically. And I took on the world. It's like Gordon Shedden at the time. I think it was 2011. Did he win in 2012? His first. I think his first championship was 2012. But I painted his helmet in 11. So I'd hardly been painting at all, and I did his helmet. And he was really good friends with someone at RI UK, and they were looking for a painter to do some British Superbike helmets. I don't do any real bike helmets anymore. But at the time, I grabbed that opportunity. I was still full-time at Knockhill, working 5 or 6 days a week or whatever it was, depending on the time of year. I had this RI gig kicking off. They were also supplying AGVs. So I had Stuart Easton and Tommy Bridewell and all these guys that I needed to paint their helmets. So you can imagine I'm working at Knockhill, which is pretty hard job. And then walking across, I didn't have this workshop at the time. A friend of mine up the top, he lent me just a little corner of his workshop where I had some airbrushes and stuff set up. I'd go across there in the evening, and it got to the point where I was working all night and then getting changed and walking back across to start my shift at Knockhill. It was just crazy.
Wow.
Just living on Red Bull and
it just exploded.
It just went crazy, yeah.
Wow. Just want to mention about Tommy Bridewell. For those of you who don't know Tommy Bridewell, he's a British Superbike rider. Absolutely brilliant. Great character. So good. And he does these flasks. Tommy Bridewell Racing flasks. This will keep your hot drink hot for about 8 hours. I use it on my day job. Yeah, he's a great guy, isn't he, Tommy? He's a real character. I've been trying to get him on here, but
yeah,
it's not his thing. So shame.
He's up here. We've got Superbikes here now, so he's probably here.
Yeah, it's got the BSB this weekend, of course.
Yeah,
if I shout really loud, do you reckon he'll hear me? No.
What is it? Wednesday. It won't be here till tomorrow.
No, I'll be here tomorrow. He's got a long journey. I do have something else with Tommy Bridewell's here, which I'm not sure if I am gonna show everyone. Hang on a minute. Sorry, this is terribly unprofessional of me. I do apologise. Slightly off track. For those of you who don't know, BSB rider Brad Jones had a shunt Brands Hatch a couple of years ago and smashed himself up and was in a coma, and his family had to stay at hospital while he was there. and Tommy Bridewell very kindly did an auction. Did a raffle for his leathers, his race-worn leathers, to raise money. And raised over £7,000. Tickets were a £5 each, and I bought myself £15 worth just to give Brad Jones's mum and dad a meal one evening, and I won. So I have got Tommy Bridewell's leathers.
All right. Have you put them on?
Yeah, they fit. Yeah, me and Tommy are a similar build, but they're very cool. So Tommy, if you are seeing this, thank you very much for those. It's the only ones that he's ever given away. And they're not built for comfort. I've actually got photos of me in them, but they're never going to see the light of day. Because
has it still got the airbag?
This one didn't have the airbag. It's just it's got the hump. It's got the hump at the back there.
Mm.
But that's just full of like polystyrene, so you don't break your neck when you fall off. But yeah, they're all scuffed, and the sliders are it's very cool. Anyway, I digress. See, this is why you don't mention bikes to me. So obviously the business it took off. You were working all hours and godsends, all thanks to Rory Butcher. Did you ever think it would be something that you could maybe use to fund going racing, or was it just something that?
Maybe that was part of the idea. Certainly, it's not why I did it. Back way in the early days when I was doing Formula Ford, I was working at Knockhill. I used to work in the evenings at the gym. Not as a personal trainer. I used to work in the bar making paninis and whatnot. But I used to do that in the evenings and then I would put all that money towards tires so I could kind of bring in more to fund my racing. But I don't think by the time I started painting helmets, I don't think I was still trying to do that. I think it was I just fancied having a go and just didn't realize what was going to happen, I think.
Yeah, it kind of exploded. Just in a comment from Julian Hoskins.
Julian Hoskins, yeah. So Julian,
have you talked about Denmark Formula Ford yet? We just want to touch on that just for Julian.
Julian Hoskins. Julian made it happen for me to go to Denmark. They had Kevin Magnussen in 2008 out there, and I'll be careful how I say this. Fukamuni Racing, a massive big team, great team. And Julian, I did a round of the British Formula Ford with Julian in 2009, maybe, I don't know, something like that. And then Kevin Magnussen had gone to F3, so they needed somebody, and Julian put in all the good words that he could for me. I ended up going out to Denmark, and I went out there mid-season, and I ended up staying and finishing the year. I think we had a pole position and a few podiums and stuff out there, but it was an amazing experience. We used to test on a Tuesday and then race on the weekend. It was this weird setup, but I used to just go and stay in the truck on the Tuesday and then just sort of live in the truck until, I wasn't going to come home again from Denmark. But they were good times. And Julian actually engineered my car in 2020 when I was on pole at Knockhill in the JCW.
So it kind of came full circle.
Yeah, but Julian ran Magnussen the year before as well. Wow, a real hardcore Formula Ford fan.
Oh, good man. We love that. Love to hear that.
Let JT have a vape.
You can if you wish. No one's going to hold it against you.
I'll have a quick one.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you, Nick. Good man. Yeah, no problem. So, excuse me. Just want to say hello to Kales Cole, real top up and coming racer from the Emerald Isle. She's in the F1000. She's been on here for a chat in the past. She's going to have a question for you about helmets later on. So we'll come to that. I did see something. One more thing before we get back onto going racing in the Mini Cooper. Something that the good folk at Hybrid Tune put a comment in. He said you've also been in a music video.
Yeah.
Filmed at Knockhill. I am intrigued by this.
Kaiser Chiefs. I did a helmet for Ricky Wilson for the Kaiser Chiefs. He had some connection with Honda. Pictures, I won't spin you around, but the pictures on my wall there. It was a Honda sort of design that I did for him, and he came in and picked it up and was really nice and all the rest of it. And then they ended up doing a music video. And we were like stunt drivers. There was me. I think Gordon Shedden was there. Guys from Knockhill were there. I can't remember. There was maybe 5 of us. But then as the day of filming ended up going, we ended up being in the video, in the music video, that for half a second.
I'm just thinking. I think I know the one you. I think
it was filmed at Knockhill. I can't remember what it was. What the song was.
That's ringing a bell now. You've said that. That's ringing a bell with me.
Sorry, that was a while ago.
coffee here. Yeah, very cool though. Very cool. So again, from the research that I've done, there was a couple of years away from racing. I mean, do correct me if I'm wrong. There was a couple of years away from racing until you got back into the Scottish Mini Cooper Cup in 13, was it?
Yeah. So this whole mess with me painting helmets in the evening and working at Knockhill through the day, it was only ever going to end one way, which was me burning out, which is exactly what happened. But I was too scared to start my own business. It was never the intention. It was just this hobby that was getting out of control. But it was starting to cause issues with me not sleeping, being at work. So Gillian Shedden, Gordon's wife, who owns Knockhill or runs Knockhill, pulled me into the office one day, and she kind of encouraged me to just do it already. But I didn't want to leave that salary and what I'd become used to for over a decade of working at Knockhill. So she took me to the office and said, "Today is your last day." I didn't work a notice. I didn't get sacked, but she just said, "Just go and do the helmets." And this unit that I'm in at the time was a bike shop. It had come up. I didn't know at this point that I got taken into the office. I didn't know that this was coming up for grabs. So she said, "Well, you can have that unit, but just go and do it." And that was it. So I didn't choose to. I was pushed by Gillian to do it.
Wow. It's almost forced into taking like a leap of faith almost. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. I mean, that's because I think we've all been in a situation where I think, "Oh, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that," but as you say, you get kind of comfortable. I'd like to do this full time, but I can't.
I think for everybody starting a business, so it's always a sticky one to make that jump out of like a salary with a proper company paying and all the rest of it. It is a jump.
That comfort zone.
Yeah, I was just scared to do it. So yeah, I did it.
Well, I got sometimes you need a nudge, and
probably
it's all worked out okay. Yeah, I mean, just before we get back to the racing again, we've got Julian Hoskins just put another comment in there. Ask Joe about his time on BBC Eggheads.
Went on Eggheads.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I'm a really stupid person. Like in that way, I'm quite creative and artistic, but in like quiz shows, absolutely terrible. I went to the audition, and by absolute chance, all the questions were about Stephen King, and my brother happened to be a Stephen King fan. I'm not, but I knew all the answers. So they thought, this guy's got something special. In the audition, went to the live show and just absolutely died on national TV. Like, you get 3 questions. I got the first one wrong, the second one wrong, out. That was it. But they were really emphasizing how you had to explain why that was the right answer. But because mine were wrong, I was explaining why the right answer was wrong. So I made an even bigger fool of myself. Never live it down. Yeah, it's out there somewhere online, but I'm not going to find it.
How many people have been on Eggheads on here? So there you go. Yeah. It's one of those things that you can say you've done. Fantastic.
Yeah. I wish I didn't.
Happy days though. It's fine. Yeah. It's good. I remember there was was it a racing driver or a footballer went on one of those shows? I can't remember. He made a bit of a fool of himself as well. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, obviously the helmet design and all that kind of thing. It's all taken off and everything. You've left. You've gone full whack business and taken the leap of faith and everything. When did you start thinking about maybe getting back into racing? Because obviously it was 2013 you got back into it. What kind of was it?
I never left intentionally. It was just, this was just so overwhelming and took so much time. I was just literally just working. I had no concept of how to run a business, schedules. It was just, I can do it. Oh my God, I've got 25, 30 helmets. So at that point is when I met a guy called Didi. Didi left here in September last year, went back to Turkey from where he was from. But Didi actually started with me in 2010, 2011. He was here in the very beginning. There was always 2 of us. On and off, Didi would sometimes go back to Turkey for 6 months here and there. But he was quite a big part of the business. So it was around about then.
Wow. And when you went back racing, did you? I mean, I guess you always want to be as competitive as you can. Any racer does.
It was a funny one because I never wanted to stop, I had Didi here. Things kind of started to settle down a little bit into some form of a rhythm after a few years. And I was always looking for opportunities to come back, but I'd kind of given up with single seaters. I'd kind of got a bit too old for it, a bit fed up of it. I suppose I could race at a national level, but I couldn't progress. I was never going to find a Formula 3 budget or anything like that. It was just club stuff, the odd national thing, which I'd been doing for a decade. So I was kind of sick of it. But a friend of mine called Tim Slay had a mini team based up here in Scotland. It was a really good team. For 2013, he was talking about expanding the team with him and his brother and running 6 cars, which at the time was a lot of cars to run for one team. So I struggle sometimes to say no to people, and I just couldn't say no to him. And before I know it, I've signed up for the 2013 season in this front-wheel drive Mini Cooper. It was a great championship, super competitive, 30 cars on the grid, like a touring car format, race 1, race 2, reverse grid. And I kind of wanted to go racing, but I didn't want to do that just because I didn't want to drive a front-wheel drive car. Never driven one before. I'd always been single-seaters, always rear-wheel drive.
I was going to say, was that the first time in a Formula? I
just didn't want to do it, but Tim was pretty forceful, and I couldn't back out of it. Basically, I just got cornered. And I remember the first test day, it was wet, and I thought, like, oh, God, what am I doing? I've got a whole year of this yet before I can try to get out of it. And I drove it for the first time, and everything changed. I just loved it. And I thought to myself, why didn't I do front-wheel drive sooner? Why did I wait this long to do it? Everything made sense. It was just, and then I had 13, 14, and 15 in the Mini, and it was just awesome. Just loved it. And the championship up here at the time and now was just a really good championship.
It's always been very strong, isn't it? Very competitive. Yeah. But that's great. You sort of switched to Formula Ford to the front wheel drive. Mm-hmm. Something's clicked, and you thought, yeah, let's do it. And
I think I was always okay in a rear wheel drive car. I could get results now and again, but I think in a front wheel drive car, I understand it a bit better, I think.
Yeah, sure. And was it the first year you took second overall? Was it in the first year?
Yeah, I should have won. Everyone's got that story, but like 2 corners to go, and I had a puncture.
Oh,
I had a puncture because I hit someone with 3 corners to go that broke the wheel, the lad I was fighting for the championship. But yeah, it was really close to winning it in the first year, and then followed it up with second the following year, and I think second the year after. Yeah. But just really good times.
Yeah, and obviously, you say about it clicking and you enjoying it. That's got to be the first thing, isn't it? You've got to enjoy doing it, and you've got to enjoy the racing. And I guess it sounds like those 3 years were immensely enjoyable for you.
Yeah, really good. And it wasn't just at Knockhill. That's when the Scottish Championship started going and doing away rounds. We only ever did Oulton Park, but it was good in the middle of the year to get away to another circuit. And I'd never been to Oulton. Oh no, I'd been once before in Formula Ford, but yeah, to get down there and to race somewhere else was good as well.
Yeah. No, excuse me. Again, there was like another hiatus, I guess, from racing, I believe is the word, after 2 or 3 years. Why was that? I mean, obviously you said you'd enjoyed it. Was it?
No. So when the Cooper stopped, it was kind of like the end of the Formula Ford era again. It was like, I can't progress from here. I don't have the money to go and do anything else. So it was time to stop. And then the next natural step was obviously the JCWs. So it literally took me 16, 17, and I think into 18 or maybe 19. I can't remember when I started JCWs. It took me those 3 years to regroup, to try to get the money in place and make a plan as to how I was gonna make that next step into JCW.
Okay. So sometimes things just take a bit of time, of course.
And mixed in with the business as well. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it was 2018 that you made your step into the big class, as it were, with Jamsport, who have obviously done very good things with a lot of people. When you got in the JCW again, I mean, we touched on the fact that the wing car was a step up from Formula Ford. I'm going to assume the answer here, but I guess the JCW was another step up from the Coopers you've been racing in Scotland.
I described it as a front-wheel drive Zetec. It was terrifying. Me and Jack Davidson went out to Spain with Jamsport at the start of 2018, I think, to do a couple of days testing out there at, I forget the name of the circuit. Guadix, is it, I think?
Guadix.
Went out there, did a day's testing. We were sharing a hotel room, went back to the hotel room and just lay there, just both laughing. Like, that was awful, like so scary. The car is trying to kill me in a straight line. He'd come from Fiestas, I'd come from Mini Coopers, and all of a sudden we're in this thing. And we both worked really hard to get there. And it was almost like, oh man, like, actually, this thing's a bit scary. Like, there was a lot of learning to be done. It was so different to the road car, the Cooper that I'd been driving. And that was pre-season testing for 2018 season. Is it 18 or 19? Yeah, it was 18. And before you know it, we're at round 1, Oulton Park. And that went actually quite well. I think I was 7th, was I? 6th or 7th?
Yeah, I've got 7th.
Yeah, 6th or 7th at Oulton. But again, classic Joe. How many times have I done it? Start a season, do round 1. Actually, we don't have the money for this. Stopped. And that was me for another year and a half.
Oh, it was just like a financial issue there.
Yeah. I mean, lack of backing or being able to find that.
Yeah. I mean, just talking about that step up again, someone that you know well, you mentioned about like Lydia Walmsley, who we're going to come to. We've got Martin Bishop. Evening, Martin. He's put in a little comment there about Lydia, which we'll come to very shortly. Obviously, he knows you guys pretty well. Yeah. She said that when she was in the Coopers and one of the JCWs came, I think it was at Oulton Park, she said it came into Old Hall. You know, she just got to grips with the Cooper, and then the JCW came flying by. She was like, I can't do that. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
A huge step between the Cooper and the JCW. Massive.
Which is
a huge step.
I guess from the outside looking in, we probably wouldn't think it would be that much of a gap. But obviously, having spoken to a couple of guys, you know, like yourselves who have driven them, they are amazing machines. And they're they're like
really quirky, really individual way of driving it. It's nothing really makes sense that much. Like in theory, in a front wheel drive car, if you go sideways, you can have quite a lot of lock on and open the throttle, and in theory, it should pull itself straight again. Doesn't happen in JCW. If you get any more than that much oversteer, you're generally going to have an accident. It's quite a weird driving style. It's quite a difficult car to drive.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it took me a long time to get to grips with it. A long time.
No, I'm sure.
I think that's an age thing, because some of these young lads come in and they're like 3 test days and they're at the front. Maybe it's an age thing. Maybe they're just better. I don't know, but it took me a while.
No, we'll put it on age. It's easy with age. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Good question, actually, right at the right time there. Because that first round that you had, you finished 7th in the first race. The second race was cancelled because it was throwing it down.
I was on pole for the second race. I drove reverse grid pole.
Yeah.
Never got to do it.
It was throwing it down. I mean, I guess being on pole was a bit disappointing, but was it really bad, the rain?
Yeah.
I remember
it was funny because I remember Ria, who is still the championship coordinator for Minis, I just started to get to know her, and I'd gone to her in a panic being on reverse grid pole saying, oh, I've never done a start before. We'll need to start behind the safety car. And made out as if it was like a safety thing, when really I knew if I could start behind the safety car, at least I would have a chance of hanging on to the lead. And then it got reduced to a 10-minute race rather than a 20-minute race, which was meant to be. So all of a sudden, I'm starting on pole with a rolling start that I'd kind of pushed for, and a 10-minute race. So I'm thinking, actually, this could be all right. That's literally like 4 or 5 laps. I've got to hang on to this, and I can win. And then the next thing, Johnny Adam, good friend of mine, was in the race before and went off under the safety car, and they realized it was too dangerous and they scrapped it. And that was it. Yeah. Boom. And that was the year done. So it was a bit annoying.
Yeah.
I think they promised us the race later in the year, but I'd already long run out of money by that point. Yeah, so I think that race did run later without me at the front.
Gotcha. Obviously, all this happened at Oulton Park, which is where you guys are heading to this weekend. Question from Diffan Evans, evening Diffan. It says, do you prefer racing in the rain or the sunshine? Looks like we're going to get both at the weekend.
Yeah, the performance doesn't bother me. I don't think I'm particularly better in one or the other. I think I can do the same job in both, but I think racing in the rain is a lot more that can go wrong. There's a lot more concentration. 20 minutes in the rain takes it out of you, where you can think about different things in the dry. It's not quite as on edge. So if I could choose, I would always take the dry, unless I've got some kind of advantage on the day in the wet. But it's easier, I think, just for the brain. There's a lot to think about in the wet.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can, especially in the minis. Yeah. I was just fast forwarding. 2019, was there any opportunity to go racing then, or is it just, again, budgets and opportunities not coming up at the time?
Yeah, same. Just nothing came up at the time. I was kind of trying to piece a deal together myself this whole time. From finishing the minis and starting JCW, I was coaching Lydia every weekend. So I was traveling up and down the country and sitting next to her on a Friday test day, and whether she was doing junior saloons in the first couple of years or in her Cooper. So that was kind of enough almost in that period of time to keep me sort of involved in racing. And I became quite sort of like a result for her was like a reward for me. So it was like kind of keeping me scratching the itch kind of thing of being competitive. So yeah, and I was just trying to put something together. It wasn't until 2020 that I really, made it happen, I think.
Yeah, and that was with Lux, wasn't it? Lux Motorsport.
Yeah, John Davidson and Simon.
Because it was just the home round, wasn't it? It was just the Knockhill round that you were able to do.
The home round. Again, it was me trying to do a one-off and make a big impression. I'll get to that one in a minute. Trying to make a big impression in a one-off round. It looked like I just turned up, but it was all carefully planned. Lots of testing went into it, and I needed to make the biggest impression that I could on that weekend. And we did, obviously, pole position. We didn't win the race because I got a penalty for creeping at the start. Max Bird ended up winning, but I still finished second on the road. And I kind of did what I needed to do. But it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I had Julian from Danish Formula Ford. He'd come across and I'd flown him in to engineer the car. And a lot went into it. And I knew at the time it was only going to be the one race for 2020. And I was just so relieved that it kind of worked. And that sort of gave me something moving forward when the BTC thing happened in 21.
Yeah, and obviously 2020 was a horrible year for everyone.
Yeah, it was COVID anyway, so it was a weird year. It didn't really. I was happy just doing one, and I think it was quite late in the year. They moved all the racing back to like the end of the summer or something.
Yeah, they all got shunted and condensed in, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I guess, correct if I'm wrong, that was that the first year that the minis were on the BTCC?
Yeah, that was the first year they came from British GT.
So I guess being on pole, running at the front, I guess, with more people tuning in on TV, because I
think we were allowed a crowd as well up here because of the rules were slightly different.
I
can't remember, but I think we were allowed some crowd or something. I think, yeah. So it was good. It was really good.
Yeah. Obviously, to show the competitiveness and everything, and then it kind of really kicked on from there, didn't it? I mean, you mentioned with like BTC Racing at the time. Obviously, they were, still are, but they were in the BTCC. They were, running a mini. They were expanding the team, and you got in.
So Lydia had her deal with BTC, worked really well. She had, I think, a deal to do it for 21. And then I got really out of the blue a phone call from Lydia's dad asking if I would do it. I think initially he asked me if I would just coach her, but then I think they needed 2 cars, and it was going to work for data and things for Lydia. I'd had the pole position and a decent show in the year before. Got a phone call from Steve Dudman saying, come to Brackley 2:00 tomorrow. So took a day off work and jumped in my car and drove to Brackley. And I'd never met Steve before. And I just sat down in his meeting room, and it was a massive opportunity, and forever grateful for that one.
Fantastic. And obviously when teams expand like that, it obviously it certainly got the attention of the BTCC fans, obviously with Lydia, who had done so well in the Coopers as well. I think a lot of people were excited to sort of get started. I guess you guys were no different.
It was really late. From memory, it was a really late thing to pull together. So I don't think we had a lot of time for testing or anything like that. I think maybe we did a day or two, and then straight in at the deep end. And it was a year of a lot of learning. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun, met a lot of people, and it just opened lots of doors. I always say that Steve Dudman plucked me out of clubland, which he did, really.
And obviously you got the opportunity, and obviously with it being on the TOCA package coming out of COVID, was it a bit of an easier sell to any potential sort of backers or supporters? I guess it was a slightly easier sell with it being on TV and everything.
I think just being in the paddock helps. I'd kind of been there a couple of times in the paddock for these one-off rounds that I was doing. I knew everybody really because I've been painting crash helmets for everybody for nearly 10 years at this point, or 7 or 8 years or whatever. So it was easier to try to stay there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess being more known, just simply helps, doesn't it? saw that. Excuse me. Obviously, there was a lot of learning. You didn't have a lot of testing. Things seemed to click in the second half of the season. The results got better, and
Yeah, it wasn't just.
was it Alton Park again? It sort of seemed to.
I seem to like Alton. I shouldn't say that.
Go well. A lot of things happen.
Yeah, but yeah, I had a good run at Alton Park, and then at Knockhill, I was on the podium, which was obviously the highlight of the year. It was great.
That was twice, wasn't it? Was it?
I got 2 podiums. Yeah, race. Was it 1 and 2?
Third and second, or
something like that.
Actually, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, it went well anyway. And yeah, we were learning the whole time, and yeah, and also working with the touring car team. The rounds that we weren't at because we were only at 7 of the 10. We would go along and work with the touring car team and sitting on the debriefs and all the rest of it. So it was pretty amazing year.
Yeah, I mean, you can more to absorb, more to learn about setups and everything else. I've just seen James Harmon. He was there for the podium at Knockhill, which is very cool. It's good to see. James gets around. He's just been to Monaco for Formula 8.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got the Welsh flag.
Yeah. I know him.
Yeah. He's a lovely chap. We like him.
He bought me a bottle of Iron Brew, actually, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. Job done. I actually sent James a signed photo from one of the previous guests, and I'm glad that he's received it, which is lovely. So thank you, James, for the support. It's lovely chat. We like him a lot. So you've had the season. You've learned a lot, and all good. I'm going to approach this sort of quite differently because I know there's a lot went on with BTC Racing, not just in the minis, with the touring car team and everything. Spoke with Michael Crease last week. He gave us a bit of an insight. It was a shame that it couldn't really carry on into was it 2022 because everything seemed to be going well, and then it all kind of not fell apart. It just didn't go to plan.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to until quite late in the day that it was going to be, and like the first year was always sort of a learning year. I'm not sure what Steve's plans are in the future with minis or whatever, if he's going to revisit it or not. But yeah, it ended up not happening. And this is when obviously Hybrid Tune happened for me. Like I already knew what a great team they were from the previous year. They were running Sam Weller and Stephen James was driving the other car. It wasn't the team that it is now with the infrastructure that they've got. It was sort of like a smaller operation, but I could see straight away that it was going to be the place to be, and their cars were going to be awesome, and they definitely not let me down. Stephen James and Richard Neal and all the guys at Hybrid Tune, plucked me up, and here we are.
And it's like one of those teams that is growing sensibly. I mean, there's some teams that go a bit nuts and they try and take on too much too soon, but it feels like Hybrid Tune, they're doing things the right way.
You have a successful year and then you take on the world and you end up with 10, 15 cars, and then the standard drops all the way across because it's so difficult. But what I really liked and knew about Steve in the beginning is that he was never going to do that. He was never going to sort of cash in off the back of a successful year, and he was always going to keep it tight, manageable, and the quality really, really high, which is what he's done. And then it just shows, I think, in the results. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the way to go about racing, especially at this level, especially in the post-COVID world when there's a lot of uncertainty and things like that. It just feels like
what I really like about them is that they're there to win as well. Like a lot of teams will go through the motions a little bit. It's sort of like year on year, and they'll have maybe one driver that is maybe focused on, but with Hybrid, like everybody is desperate to win. And even now I get shocked sometimes that like the desire, like if it hasn't gone well, I'll be really annoyed that it hasn't gone well. But I've been in teams where you'll be really annoyed, but no one else is really bothered.
Right.
But at Hybrid, if it's not gone well, you can see it in everybody.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do, which I really like.
There's that desire to put it right and to get it,
exactly, yeah.
To go out there and get it better.
No stone left unturned. That's the one.
Brilliant, which is the best way to be, as we said. It's a fantastic way to be. Again, I'm trying to come back to the logistics from your location and things like that. Obviously, you've moved up, the ladder a little bit. They're based in Suffolk. You are not. By a long way.
I've only been there once.
Really?
Yeah, I went there at the start of last year to meet Steve. This was when I was joining the team. I went down there once, had a look at the facility, and was like blown away by not just the Hybrid Tune building, which is Sam Weller's dyno and Sam Weller and Steve obviously own it, their dyno business on one side of the estate, but the other side of the estate with the Renvale building with all the wiring looms and things that they do for Formula One teams and all the rest of it. I was like, wow, yeah, crazy.
Quite a setup. Yeah, very impressive. Excuse me. Excuse me, I've got a technically cough. Obviously, going into your second full season, you were eligible for the Directors' Cup. I mean, was that obviously was that the target, or was it just
not at all? Just a case of... I didn't want to be in it because I could have actually done it in 21 when I was BTC, but I didn't want to do it, and so I didn't fill out the form. But then in 2022, last year, the team, Stephen James had won it the year before. He's accepted being old. I haven't accepted it as yet. So he happily took it. I didn't want to do it in 22, but Steve was quite keen to try to retain the title. And I was the guy that had to do it. And I didn't know I was entered until the first round at Donington Park, where I'd had a disaster. I can't remember. I think I got excluded from qualifying. Something happened and I finished like 13th or something. I came into the pit lane and everybody's cheering and giving me the number one. And then it clicked in my head. You're going into the directors. But hey, listen, I am thankful for it. Managed to win it last year and hopefully I can do it again this year. But my point is I'm more interested in the overall result. Yeah. That's what I want to do. You know, the directors is nice, but it depends where we are overall. I think, I'm still young enough to try to do that. Yeah, to try to do both would be pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're younger than I am, so don't worry. Well, that's not going to. We'll sweep it. We'll sweep it under the rug. Yeah. I mean, just to sort of touch on some of the results you had at the start of the season. I mean, you took, there was a steady start. You sort of, apart from retirement, you had 6th and 8th at Brands, 3rd and 4th at Alton. Again, Alton Park. All going well. Then there was another double podium up at Knock Hill. Again, me and Ronan on the front row. Yeah. I've known Ronan since Ronan was in indoor karts along the road. And I've known his mum and dad as well. His mum works here at the circuit. So I've known him since he was literally like tiny. Yeah. So that was quite a moment, I think, both of us being at the front. We joked about it through the week before that, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? And then it kind of did happen. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good weekend, but he was so fast. Like, he was so quick. He was really quick in the wet in the morning. And then in the race, I just couldn't live with him. I think in the second race, I hung on for a bit, but I just couldn't keep the pace for the entire race. He did really well. But even to be, was I second twice or second and third? I can't remember. Oh. But even just to be on the podium at home was great, I think. Yeah, and obviously it's on TV. There's more exposure. It must have felt great. I mean, obviously, you obviously know Knock Hill like the back of your hand, but still to be up there challenging and in one of the top series in the UK is a big thing. Oh, yeah, it was good. It was really good. Race 3 on the Sunday was a nightmare. I started 4th, and I think who won it? Alex Denning, who I think started 5th behind me, ended up winning the race, but my clutch exploded on the start. Oh. I'd held it on the limiter too long, and I did it to myself. And that was over. But I was happy enough with what had happened the day before, so it was good. By this point, the championship had already gone. I got a couple penalties early on, and these penalties came with points deduction, which is why I ended up 9th overall. I think wasn't true where we should have been. We should have been 6th, but with the points and stuff. And by the time Knock Hill had come around, it was pretty obvious that we weren't going to end up in the top 3. Sure. So I was kind of out for each race, I think. No, sure. I mean, just for a minute, we've got to talk about Knock Hill. I mean, I've been up there for the racing once, 2019. I popped in last year on the way back. I was up in Dunkeld for a while, and I popped in, and it was -6 with the wind chill and freezing. Oh, yes. I was hoping to catch up with Duncan Vincent, but he was busy. But it is a fantastic little circuit. I mean, obviously you're biased because you work there and it's your home circuit, but anyone who's seen it on TV, even Michael Crease last week said it's his favourite circuit in the UK. It's a fantastic place, isn't it? Yeah, it's awesome. I live just like 10 minutes down the road. I've been based here at the circuit. I can remember when I used to have days off, I used to drive to the circuit and think, oh, hang on, what am I doing here? It's just like so natural for me to come here. Yeah. It definitely feels like home. And I think I'll always be here one way or another. I've been here that long. But it's improving and growing all the time. The circuit, back in the day, it was a lot narrower. We've seen the extension, the resurfacing. It's constantly changing and evolving. And I like it here.
Yeah, and they've just built a new what do you call it? By the hairpin, haven't they? They built a new.
So they've got the view down at the hairpin, and today
new
new toilet blocks opened as well. I just visited it on the way in. As I was coming in, first time. Yeah, I don't think I was the first person to use it, but yeah, new toilet blocks just opened as well. So yeah, plenty going on.
That's good. Good. The facilities are improved. Not that they need it, but they're very, very good. And we've got Colin Peach. He actually took me around Thruxton. He's a racer himself. He said that he'd love to go up to Knockhill. Definitely recommend it to anyone.
Yeah,
fantastic place. But dress for all 4 seasons because you're going to get them. It's the only place I've been to where I've been tempted to go to the merch stands and buy hat and gloves. But by the afternoon, I was in my t-shirt. So
yeah, it does.
Classic stuff. Obviously, your teammate Sam. Obviously he won the title that year. Last year, he's very good, isn't he?
Yeah, annoyingly good. Sam really annoys me with his effortless skills. It's like we'd go out in qualifying, and I'd need to bring the rears up to temperature, and then put my fronts on, so I had the temperature in the rear. And Sam would just be like, "Just do it. Just do it with cold rears." I'm like, "Well, I can't because I'll crash." But he would do it with cold rears. He just annoys me in that sense. Obviously, I'm joking because he's my driver coach this year. But we have similar conversations. When we're arguing about how we're going to attack qualifying, I can see sometimes he wants to do it his way rather than my way. we work good together.
Yeah, no, good stuff. No, good lad. Obviously, this year, you're back in the series, back with Hybrid Tune. Same car. I assume it's the same car.
Same car, same everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just we've got Matt George as well, who was my driver coach last year, and then Sam not racing this year. We've split into groups, and I've been given Sam, which I think is good. He's quite blunt and to the point. And obviously I still have Matt there as well to bounce ideas off as well. So it's a really good environment, and I just love being in the team so much. I don't know if this is going to be my last year in minis. I think it probably is. I think 3 years is enough. I'd like to move on. If you hang around longer than 3 years, it starts to, I think you need a year to learn it, a year to sort of get there and podiums, and then a year to be at the front, which is kind of what we've done.
Yeah.
But I'd like to move on to something else next year, but I also don't know if I could handle not being with Hybrid Tune.
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll have to see what happens with the team and where they go and everything. Yeah. Just want to say a quick hello to Mark Wagstaff from BTCC Blueprints. They do excellent work. Joe's mug that he had earlier, that's from them. And said, everyone is so friendly, but we need a translator sometimes. That's very unfair.
There's a few people around here that I need a translator for sometimes as well. But
yeah, but no. But if anyone wants to check out BTCC Blueprints, they're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Do check them out. They do excellent work. But obviously, this season's going rather well, isn't it? You've had is it six podiums? Is it or 5 from the 9? Something like that, isn't it?
6 so far.
6. Yeah. And obviously, we saw you at Snetterton running very well. Obviously, we had a quick chat just before you went out.
Yes, 6-3, yeah.
That was windy. I remember it being incredibly windy at Snetterton, but the whole season's gone well, isn't it? I mean, has it gone as you'd kind of hoped and expected?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I didn't think I was going to go there and run away at the front, especially with Dan still being there, and I knew how fast Will was from the first lap he did in testing. I was like, oh God, here we go. Got my hands full with this guy, Sam Smith as well, who fortunately isn't there at the moment. He will come back, and Sam Smith is super fast as well. So I knew even before the season started, this is going to be really, really tough. Yeah. It's like the changing of the guards in the championship. All the regular names left, all these new faces came in, but they were immediately doing the same lap time. There was just this new group at the front that was super quick. I think I'm happy with how it's gone. I think if I didn't have the disaster, I hate doing that when you talk about what could have happened, but if I didn't have the disaster at Brands, I'd probably be a little bit further up the championship.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but as you say, I mean, it's a super competitive, series and a super competitive team you've got as well. You mentioned Sam quickly. I mean, obviously he had a, heck of a incident at Donington.
Scary accident.
Very scary. How's he doing?
Footage. I watched it once. I'll never watch it again. Yeah, it's a real scary one. I missed his call if he's watching. Sorry, he tried to phone me earlier, which I never answered. But I'm not sure if he's going to come to Alton or not. But he was at Snetterton, so yeah, it's always nice to see him. And I just want him to get back in the car soon because, like, genuinely, the more of us to upset Dan at the top of the championship, the better.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, and obviously, we hope he's fully recovered soon because it was very scary for everyone.
Yeah, he is getting there. But he's got some pain and some bits and bobs. So I think he doesn't want to rush it. And after this round, we've got 7 weeks, so he's got a lot more time to not have to be in a position to rush it.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, obviously I'm no expert, but I think he's sit out Alton Park, have a full rest, and get back to full health. So hopefully it'll happen soon. Just very quick, there's a question earlier on. You obviously spent a lot of time with Lydia. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time with her. You were teammates with her. Now you're racing against her. I think someone asked, "What's it like racing against her?" Given that
so strange, so weird.
It must be.
Yeah, it's strange sometimes. I think the only time we've raced against each other this year was maybe at Brands, one of the races I was trying to come through the pack. And I get behind her and I think, like, is she going to fight or not? And then she does. And I'm all like, hang on. And I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know. Maybe I just don't.
Dare you?
No, not like that. I mean, she's right. Of course you should. But it's just,
yeah.
Because I've always been on the other side and I don't know. Yeah, I still find it a bit strange, but yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, good stuff. Just before we get onto all the good helmet stuff, which we are going to get onto shortly. Obviously, you mentioned may or may not be your last year in minis, depending on what happens and how it all goes. Is there eyes on the BTCC or TCR or anything up the scale like that?
Yeah, I want to do touring cars, obviously, but I just think the budget is just too much to even really think about. It's not double minis. It's not even 3 times. You're like 4 times the budget from minis to and touring cars at the moment. There's only I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. I want to try to do it in a way that I'll enjoy it. So that's what I want to do, but I don't see it happening next year. I'd like to stay with Hybrid-Tune, and I don't know what they're going to do next year. So there's no plan mapped out. I like TCR. I think it looks good. I like TCR Europe. I think that looks really good. Mega circuits. But I think my priority would be to try to stay with Hybrid-Tune, whatever they do. But I think it's way too early to think too much about next year. I need to try to get through this, but I'm quite aware that this is probably my last year in minis, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll just see how things are. And obviously, before we move on, I want to wish you all the best of luck for the rest of the season. Obviously, you're well placed at the moment. So, fingers crossed we can see you up there again. Actually, it brings us on to the question that someone did ask. I think it was Mark Wagstaff. Front Row Joe, where did that come from?
It came from, I'm not sure. So when I was on the front row in British Formula Ford in 2005, Joe D'Agostino was on pole, and it was him who said it's an all Joe front row.
Right.
I don't know if it came from that, but then Richard John Neal used to say it all the time on the SMRC coverage of the minis in 2013. So it was basically Richard John Neal, but I think he got it from Joe D'Agostino's comment about an all Joe front row, I think. Mm-hmm. And it seems so, like, it was funny at the time, but now I've got to live with it, and I know how it seems. Like, it's a bit presumptuous, isn't it? Because it's so easy to, like, I've got, like, if I have like a water bottle and it has said front row Joe on it, every time I wasn't on the front row, the mechanics would write not front row Joe. It's just like I set myself up for it every single time. Yeah, back row Joe and all this. It's just so, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do it, but too late now, isn't it?
It's there, and there's a handle. Everyone kind of. It's a memorable thing.
It's also, there's a NASCAR driver. I don't know who it is. That is
Joe Nemechek.
Yeah, so he, on Twitter, he must have a similar thing that I do, and I get messages from the New York Times asking me about Talladega or whatever. Wrong one. I've got an underscore.
I very nearly tagged him in one of the posts earlier. One of the it came was front row Joe, and I went, no, that's not him. Yeah. Joe Nemechek, thinking, who's this guy? Anyway, no, cool, good stuff. Right, we've got to move on to the business side. I'll keep an eye on the time and everything. You said how it started almost unexpectedly, and it snowballed through word of mouth and everything like that. There was a question we've got to do before we get on to your kind of process and how you go through it, because I am fascinated by this. Someone asked about Michael Creasy. I think it might have been Creasy himself. I'm not sure. He did say, what would you go? Oh, there you are. What design would you do for me to represent my personality? Crikey, this could be dangerous.
Just roll it across the paddock. I'm only joking. I don't really know Creasy, to be honest. I've met him a couple of times. I think our BTC thing just overlapped. He sort of left literally a couple of days before I joined. But no, I don't know. I'm sure we'd come up with something fitting.
We'll have to speak with Creasy. Creasy, if you are tuning in, get it in the comments. See, what would you like? It would be great. But it's always kind of like fascinating to me. I mean, I've seen on the website there's like a lead-in time and things like that. And but what's the process that you got? I mean, do you get drivers that just say, right, this is what I've done in the past, I want something like this, or
it used to be like
some of them just they go nuts, or what?
It used to be like so much more enjoyable. Sound miserable, but it used to be like, oh yeah, I like something like this. Just do what you like, and I would do what I liked, and there was no computer-generated images. But as the years have gone by, everybody wants to pre-approve this. They want to see the colors. They want to see everything. So we've got 4 or 5 different designers that work for us and come up with these computer-generated designs that they need to then sign off, which makes it difficult for me because I have to live up to that. The colors look different on a screen to reality, and I think it just creates a lot of problems. I like to have, but occasionally I do get people that say, oh, do what you want. And it's few and far between, but when that happens, it's awesome because I can just do whatever. I think the last one I did like that, for anyone reasonably well known, maybe Luke Browning's F3 helmet this year. I did just, I think he sent me a picture of his high-tech F3 car and said, on you go. And it came out really nice. I liked it. Yeah, it was more enjoyable to do, I think.
Yeah, it's more of a, like a freestyle type thing. I mean, I'm not artistically minded or graphically minded or anything like that. If someone said that to me, they'd end up with crayons and stuff.
Oh, I miss loads of times. Loads of times I get it wrong. But if they've given me the freedom to do it and it's not right, that's the risk. Then
exactly, yeah, that's it. But that's the thing, because I mean, I guess some of them have like colours that they like to use. Take example like Paul O'Neill. He's green. He's always had green on his.
Mm-hmm. Paul's one who lets me do what I want. That's a great example. Paul doesn't care. Like every single one I've done for him, including the green and yellow one that I did for him last year or this year, whenever. That was just on you go, whatever you fancy.
Do you ever think, oh, is that too much of a color? Is it not enough? Is the accent on that? Is it too much shading? Is it? I'm just fascinated by
in the early days when I was learning, because it was like a 5-6 year period of like not really knowing what was going on, and you wouldn't know what you had until you peeled off all the layers and you were like, all right. But I've been doing it that long now, you can predict what you're doing and what's coming next, what works, what doesn't work. Right. But it comes from like a lot of mistakes, huge mistakes, like done crazy things, like, and I always try to learn from the mistakes, but stuff like working in a mess. And I can remember in the early days, 2 o'clock in the morning, finished a helmet that was leaving the next day, picked it up, looked at how nice it was, picked a cloth up off the workbench that I didn't know had soaked in paint, and wiped the back of the helmet like 2 a.m. Stuff like that. It's just like you learn like that. The pain of having to resolve that teaches you to learn quite quickly in this job, I think, because like nothing's done quickly in this. Everything is planned, layer upon layer, like lighter colors and how those lighter colors react on a darker color. All these things, you can put like a neon on top of a darker color and it's translucent. And candies as well, like a candy paint will run, so you have to predict what's below it because it tends to bleed with the lacquer and just all these things. But everything I do is as a result of a massive headache at some point.
So I mean, that's the bit that I'm intrigued by, the different kind of characteristics of each paint and each color, and
you're mixing, because it
looks different when it looks different when it goes on to when it's finished.
So like a lot of these paints, they don't like to to work together sometimes. So sometimes you'll use one paint with another paint, and you'll remember, oh, hang on, these two don't really like each other, and they'll react in some way. And there's a lot of learning I think's gone into it. I still make mistakes, but I'm getting there now. I think it's not that often that I'll make. I shouldn't be saying this because I'm going to make a huge mistake, but yeah, it's not that often that I make mistakes like that now.
I mean, everyone knows that like mistakes happen, but I mean, and it's how you learn. But I mean, from some of the work that you've done, I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. Some of it. I mean, we're going to come to some examples very shortly. But I mean, I guess, as I said, there's a point from I'd like you to do a helmet to getting it done.
Yeah,
and
so
finishing it.
they'll come to us. They speak to Hannah. Hannah will let them know when. I mean, at the minute we're the 4th of September, which is pretty mega to have a waiting list like that.
Wow.
Hannah will deal with the bookings. We take a deposit for the time slot, just so that we're secure in that slot and not turning away work that we could have potentially done. And then she'll just start the design process. So Hannah will be between the designer and the customer, bouncing ideas backwards and forwards. And having Hannah here, she's been here over a year now. It's taken all that off of me because I was doing all that as well as the job. Wow. I had Dee Dee on the paint side, but it was me doing all the admin stuff. So Hannah's been like amazing in that sense of just getting everything a little bit more organized for me. And normally when I see the helmet is when she prints it off and hands it to me and says, this is what you're doing, and with a load of notes and stuff.
Wow.
So she'll do all that side of it. Then it comes to me, and then I paint the crash helmet.
Wow, that's amazing. And when that design comes to you, I mean, I guess I'm not going to ask what you think all the time because there must be a few.
Well, I'm pretty open. I don't like.
Is it quite exciting for you?
In what sense? Is it exciting to?
Is it quite exciting to say, oh wow, that's something I can really get stuck into?
Sometimes, but I'm not only excited because it's not that hard. Like some things look really difficult, but I know how it's going to be done, and it's not that hard. Some stuff looks really simple to the customer, perhaps, but for me, from a painting point of view, is a total headache. Like to have like 2 pin lines beside each other doesn't seem a big deal, but it doubles the hours for me to have to do that. And sometimes the way the pin lines are laid down, I can see it straight away. Like as soon as I see the design, I'll strip it back to where we start, and I'm just like, oh, see, if it was that way, it would save 20 hours.
Right. Wow. That's incredible.
Hannah's not just an admin girl. She's just popped up in the comments. I need to get this straight. Hannah's helped me with the admin, but Hannah wants to start painting as well, obviously, with the airbrushes and whatnot.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for tuning in, Hannah. And we just want to say, we've got to say a few words on Hannah because she's had a procedure recently, and we do hope you're on the mend, Hannah.
I think me and Hannah underestimated it, but she's been back full time. Well, not full time. Well, pretty much full time the last couple of days. So she's been doing really well.
Yeah, excellent. And I hope you'll do recover fully and well, Hannah. Because it's not a nice procedure, but I do hope you're doing well, and we all do. Just very quick. I mean, when you see a design, I was going to skip on to something else in a minute, but when you see a design, do you think there's sometimes you think that's a bit too busy? Do you ever think, is it a difference between intricate and too much? And do you ever sort of feed back to anyone saying, look, you might want to try this?
I don't really feed back once they've decided because that's what they want, and I know I've just got to deal with it. The days of trying to talk them out of it are gone. But I generally think 3 colors, if you start mixing 4 or 5 colors, like 2 different neons, like the metal flake versus this and that, it can get a little bit too much. I think the world of karting's gone a little bit that way, or did at one point. The European stuff was a bit crazy, and it kind of all merged together. I prefer this sort of slightly more not simple, but the more bold stuff, kind of with a little bit of detail in areas rather than just madness, hexagons and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
Ash Sutton this year, like tried to get him to calm it down a little bit with his hexagons and his nappas and his matte and gloss and and going back to Hannah there as well, being more hands-on with it. It's the matte finish needs to be masked twice. So I mask it the first time, but then it needs to be masked again to apply the matte lacquer on top of the gloss lacquer.
Right.
But Hannah now's picked that up really well, and I can give her the crash helmet in the fine line and she'll sit and mark off the areas and stuff, which she did for Ash's helmet, which was a massive help. But his one for me was right on the edge of too much.
Being a bit busy.
Yeah.
But it's a cracking looking lid. It's a really
it looks amazing.
It's a terrific job.
Like massive job, huge job.
Yeah. I did say I mentioned Kales Cole, the young racer earlier on. She said that you're an awesome designer, really good at what you do. Would love for you to design a helmet for me. Would you do just a design, or do you have to get the helmet painted and designed?
To be honest, we prefer to paint the helmet because of the work involved and how busy we are and how much work Hannah's having to do to create the design to then not be able to paint it. It's almost not worthwhile doing, if I'm being brutally honest. Sounds harsh, but it's not. It just doesn't really work that well in that sense. Hannah will be proud of me for saying that, because I'm a yes man and I'm not allowed to.
Okay.
I struggled to say no, but I did.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I'm sure Kales will be in touch at some point to get to chuck some business your way. I think she loves a pink. She does love a pink, so that's good. Can't be a pink. Just want to say, John Kane, one of the marshals at Knockhill, he says to say hello. So hello from John, and big thumbs up to all the marshals who help us out, because they are unsung heroes. Unsung heroes. Right, we're going to get onto some of the examples here. Firstly, the one I want to come to is the one you did recently for Beatsons, the DIY one. That was, I saw it on social media. It blew up. It was absolutely fantastic piece of work, and it's a good initiative for you. You've got all your different sponsors and backers, different helmet for each round.
Yeah, that's the idea. I've been trying to get that to take off for quite a while, but the logistics of it, physically doing the helmet, but putting deals into place to wear a different helmet at every round, supported by a different company as a sponsor or supporter, but also having the helmet themed. It's very easy just to have a design and bang their logo on it, but the whole idea is to sort of showcase what I can do as the business, but also wearing it when I'm driving as well, and in another way promoting the company. So the Beatsons one, I know it wasn't everyone's cup of tea, and I think I might have gone a bit too far with the Alton Park one. I'm not going to show you, but yeah, the idea is to do something very different. Nails and chipboard and all the rest of it. Obviously, it's not traditionally a racy design, but the idea is to promote what that company does in a unique way rather than just logo.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked fantastic. Everyone that I saw the comments on it were just saying fantastic piece of work, and the chipboard and the tin and the shading and everything. It looked absolutely fantastic. I thought it was one of the best ones that you've done.
Yeah, no, I really liked it as well. Yeah, it was really good. It worked really well.
It must be quite difficult doing the chipboard bit.
Can't talk about it. It's all trade secrets. All goes on back there.
Yeah, I wasn't after two. I was just saying it must have been.
None of them are easy, to be honest. None of them are easy. But it wasn't that bad actually. That one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We've got to get onto some of the private designs. I mean, there was a question. Where are we? From Mark O'Neill, which we'll come to at the end of this segment. We've got to say hi to Darren Thipthorpe from Arrow Helmets. Hello, Darren. Yeah, we like Darren. He's a good lad. He said, "Did you enjoy painting Nigel Mansell's one last year? His RI helmet, because it's everyone knows Nigel Mansell's design. I mean, firstly, did you enjoy it? And two, is there any kind of more pressure given that everyone knows what it should look like?"
Yeah, I don't think I appreciated how into that design people are when I did his original one. If you look at the original one that I did and actually pick it apart, there's ways that the red lines come in that I didn't nail. But in my defense, the deadline was insane. I think it was like 3 days I had to do it.
Really?
And I posted it on Instagram, and I accidentally announced that he was going up the hill at Goodwood in the 92 Williams. And I within 15 seconds got a message from Williams that I tagged in the post saying that's not been confirmed, basically. I only had like 3 days to do it, and it came out fine, and he loved it. And it worked really well. But I got, there's a chap, I apologize, I've forgotten his name, but he works for Williams, and he sent me later in the year, he sent me another 2 actual 1993, which I think was RIGP 3 or GP2 at the time. He sent me a document that thick with his measuring tape, every single, and it wasn't until after I'd done Nigel's helmet that I did these 2 replicas for this guy that I realized probably how far off I was when I had to do Nigel's actual helmet when it came to this millimeter perfect. And I did 2 of them for him, a reconstruction of the exact helmet. And he then, when I sent it to him, he took it into they've got the museum at the Williams factory. He took it in and put it on the car and took photos and whatnot. And he went to like every detail. You know, the little oxygen tube that they used to have, the little aluminium tubes that they used to have?
Yeah.
You can't buy them, and it wasn't on the helmet, but Mansell did use it in 92. And he made one in his at Williams in the engineering department and fitted it to the helmet. It was like perfect.
Wow.
Perfect replica. And he had the original visor that Mansell had actually given him with the visor strip, the big thick Renault visor strip.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Must be very cool, sort of seeing something that you've done. You know, being there with Nigel.
I went to Goodwood I've never been to Goodwood before. I went there. I had to go to do some W Series stuff because I'd done some helmets for Abby and Jess for swear at the British Grand Prix, the competition that they ran. So I had to go there. Oh, sorry, Alice and Jess, I did them for. I had to go there and present them. So I was there at the event when he was wearing the helmet. Being truthful, I went to Brighton the night before, and the whole hybrid crew were there. I was so hungover at Goodwood. I did the W Series thing in the morning and just lay on a banking somewhere, and I'll regret it forever, but I never saw him go up the hill.
Oh, nuts. Never mind. There's no footage of it. It's good. It's
but there might be one this year, potentially.
Oh,
rubbish is secrets, aren't they? But yeah,
fingers crossed. We shall see. Duncan Vincent is in. Evening, Duncan. Yes. He says,
this is for Duncan. He tells me that this is what you do to say hello to people. Rub your temple. I keep forgetting to do it on the TV, and he told me today to do that.
Oh, is that okay?
Apparently, yeah. You do this, and it's saying hello to Duncan.
I'm going to start. Okay.
That's what he tells me.
Happy days. We'll do that. I do hope you're well, Duncan. Hope you're well. He said he was a bit nervous about doing the BSB on the home circuit this weekend. Duncan's brilliant. Commentator of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And thoroughly well deserved, Duncan. Well done. And keep up the fantastic work. BSB this weekend. Knock Hill. Get on it, folks. Right, back to the helmet. Very quick. There's a lot of ones that you've done. A load of people have mentioned some of them in the comments. One thing we have to touch on is Josh Cook. Because that one has just blown up. It's a fantastic piece of work. I don't even know where to start with it because it's got him on it's just a fantastic bit of work. The goggles and the fighter helmet.
The concept
was that a fun one to do?
We bounced a load of stuff around. There was I think we were stuck on like a cardboard box at one time that had like all the tape and the label and like it was like express delivery, such and such champion, you know, and all the rest of it. And I don't remember who came up with that idea with the goggles and the cap, but I bought one of those caps on Amazon so that I could have it and took it apart and lay it flat to try to work out how it was all going to fit together. And it worked perfectly. I got his, is it girlfriend or wife? I think they're married now. I got his wife to take a picture of the side of his face at the exact angle from the nose down so that I could have those images to use on either side of the helmet and trying to position it. And it wasn't that hard to do once it was all designed, but my designer, Leon Hillard, I can't take the credit. He did so much behind the scenes to make that happen. Like, so much of it was done by Leon, and it came together really quickly, but I was super nervous because like if it was done badly it would have been really bad. Like you couldn't do it in a halfway. It needed to be like it needed to look real, but if I'd have done like a shoddy job of it, it would have been pretty bad. So I was kind of nervous, and I didn't have long because it's me. I'd left it till like I think I had a couple weeks, which a project like that it was pretty tight.
Wow.
And like media day for touring cars for me is insane. This year was probably the worst one with not having Didi here and just me and Hannah working away. And it's like 2 a.m. in the morning to try to get them ready. And on that occasion with Josh's one, a friend of mine ended up picking them up and driving through the night. He had Dan Lloyd's and Jade Edwards and Josh Cooks and a few others in the boot of his car down to, I think it was Silverstone that year. And it literally made it by like 3 hours or something.
Wow.
It was a bit stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people would say, oh, you know, the test of that was how it looked when it was done, because as you said, it could have looked a bit iffy, but from every angle, it just looked
it worked really well. Yeah,
it was a terrific effort.
but I couldn't picture it in my head like how it was going to look. So it wasn't. That was quite exciting to see it all come together. And on my phone, I've got pictures of it at all the different stages. And I always go through I start it thinking this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened. Then you go into like self-doubt as you start to do it. You think, oh God, this isn't working. And then it's hopefully sometimes it comes back at the end and you're like, oh, actually, it's going to be okay. But you always go through that sort of, what are you doing point in the middle of it? Like, this is not happening.
Sharp intake of breath.
Yeah. I do that a lot with stuff. When I'm doing something that's a bit odd, my Beatson's one with the nails, the one I've got on the bench for Alton Park this weekend, I laugh at myself because I'm like, right now I think everything's great, but in an hour I'm going to be panicking.
It's going to be a bit.
Yeah.
But that's it. Another one. Obviously, we're in Pride Month. There's a fantastic one you did for Sarah Moore, who came on here. I think she's the only W Series driver we've had on here. Sarah's great, and that was another fantastic bit of work. Again, I mean, with the subject matter of it, how important it is to so many people around the world, and within motorsport, and to Sarah as well. Was that a tricky one, or was it one you enjoyed doing? Because it came out brilliantly.
I mean, it looked great, and it was for a great cause. It was designed by Abby Pulling, who is one of my 5 designers that works for me behind the scenes, producing our designs for our customers. I'm pretty sure, I hope I haven't got that wrong, I'm pretty sure that she did design that one, and it was based on her previous design. So, I mean, as a job, it was pretty straightforward. I think did I have something on the back? I can't remember. Was there a dog or something?
Don't be
I see that many, but there was a few bits on it that were tricky. But
be who you are or something. Yeah.
No, but it had like a little. I can't remember, but I don't think it was particularly. Is it our dog? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Like the more logos, the more writing, the more. That's when the hours start to stack up. But I don't think it was particularly difficult. But again, that was like a last minute one. That was for Silverstone, and I think she got it in the morning of the race. I think, from memory. Yeah.
I do remember her doing like a video of the unveil of it, and you'd seen it, and it was fantastic bit of work. One that I liked was for like Jamie Chadwick. You've done a couple for her, but like the blue and orange one, it just looked like an absolutely brilliant design.
The Indy Next one, or.
Could be.
One of the blue and orange one. That was
a wild. No, sorry, it was one of the earlier ones. It just looked very cool. Cool one.
Before, yeah. So I've been painting for Jamie like since. Oh God, time goes so fast. It might be 10 years. A long time.
Wow.
And it's weird because her and Ross Gunn were teammates at one point, or in the same team, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I paint for both of them now, but I don't know why. Every time I paint for Jamie, I have one for Ross. They always seem to come back in pairs. So weird.
How strange.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Every year. Even though they're on separate sides of the globe now doing different things.
They just come in. That's amazing. Maybe they get together and say, right, let's have it.
Let's really put the pressure on him now.
Just another couple that I sort of picked up and looked through some of the designs on the website. One for Craig Blake. He did a cool black and blue optical illusion. Looked like it's kind of twisted and going into the helmet. Yeah. How do you do that? It's just all shading and stuff, but it just looked.
Everything's stencils and templates. So I've obviously found the image somewhere, cut it. I'm not giving too much away, but cut it as a stencil and laid it on the helmet. The art is making something that's a flat image work when it's round. That's the whole problem with this industry. Is you're trying to make something curve and still look right at all angles. But I do remember that one. That did look quite good on the top, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the top of it.
Yeah. That's a while ago.
Yeah, it was one of the early ones, but again, another.
I saw his brother the other day, and I think the helmet's out of date, and he needs another one. That's how long ago that was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, have to do it again. Just another cut. What have we got here? There's 2 more that I pulled out. Was it Will Martin? That was just a cool, like dark red, burgundy and yellow one. It just looked. I mean, I'm not sure how complicated it was, but it just looked like absolutely brilliant. That was a really nice one.
Was a tricky one actually, because that was again candy next to candy, and you've got to watch the bleed and all the rest of it. Yeah, that was a tricky one. Yeah. Was that last year already, or the year before? I don't know. Not sure. A couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I things people don't realize this. I've got a degree in geography. I quite like maps and where places are and things like that. So 2 that stuck out for me. One, you did one for Gordon Shedden that's got the Scotland on the top, map thing, and Harry King, his pink pink one. He had
Yeah.
different parts of the
Yeah.
world. Just little things like that. I guess they're nice to do. Little. Different.
Yeah, the Harry King one, that was part of the logo. I think that was quite cool because at the time it was the F1 colors, and because I was having to match the colors and stuff, I got a little bit fanboy about it, like using those colors, because I think Vettel had it at the time or something similar to that, pink with the thing. But the other day, a couple weeks ago, when he was at Monaco and he won, and I don't really do this at all, but I did happen to like wake up on a Saturday morning, go downstairs, put the TV on, and I just sat watching the Supercup race, and he had the onboard camera looking at the helmet. And when he got out of the car, he was celebrating with the team, and we had the logo and everything. And it's a bit embarrassing, but I took a picture of it off the telly and sent it to someone, being like, "Ooh,
nothing wrong with that."
Cool. I don't normally do that, but I just thought it was quite cool being at Monaco and whatnot that we painted out.
Yeah, you got some of your artwork is one at Monaco.
Yeah, there you go.
Very cool. Very cool. There's so many others that you got like Jake Dennis, who's got loads and loads and loads. I mean, there's so many.
The Lando.
Yes, that was the one, the Lando one with the roulette wheel on it. That was I missed that one. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was really cool. Time goes so fast. Like I don't even know when that was. It was before he was in Formula One.
It was pretty fun. It wasn't. Yeah, it was.
Year or he did GP2, didn't he?
Yeah.
Whatever it was called at the time. But yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, and that won an award for best helmet painter, European helmet painter or something, 2016.
Did it
so that was a long time ago. Yeah, there was an award thing down at the Autosport show, and it was judged by Tim Sugden. I remember.
Tim Sugden, crikey, there's a name from the past.
Yeah, I'm painting a helmet for Tim Sugden right now over there.
Ah, fantastic. Excellent. No, very good. I mean, obviously, there's so many we can go into, but brilliant work. And I love all the insights on how you do it and the process and timescales, everything like that. It's very cool. I mean, I am going to get round to Mark O'Neill's question here. He asked it about half an hour ago. I think it was just like, do you have a favourite one that you've done, and which driver was it, if you can tell us? I mean, there's so many you've done.
I think, being honest, probably Josh Cook's one. I think.
Yeah.
I think that was a big one at the time. I think it did it exceeded what I thought, how good it was going to look. Not to sound too big-headed, but it did look it looked the part. And he still uses it. We've got a group chat with Josh and Jade and me, and every now and again it'll kick off in this group chat, and Jade will throw in a load of, what about this? What about this? And Josh will have a go, and we'll kind of try to think of something else, but I don't know how we can beat the goggles. So it never comes to anything, and he just keeps using the helmet again. Because I think if I do, we've got a watermelon that keeps popping up in the group. To have a watermelon that's cut, like a ball. Yeah. But I mean, it's a great idea, but to put it on a helmet, there's just not enough things I can do with that. It's going to look really weird, and like to have the red, it just doesn't work for me. So
yeah. I guess with the watermelon, the funds with all the pips and stuff inside, which
on the outside, it's just going to be green with splodges. There's very little I can do around the back of the helmet.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be the exact right idea before we do something. But we've toyed with like Top Gun, the Maverick helmet and stuff, but I really like the goggles.
Yeah, no, the goggles are very cool. Actually, just put me very, very quick. You did one for Jacob Ebery, didn't you? The photographer chap.
Yeah. The
Star Wars one. Now, I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. I'm fairly into it, but that was fantastic. Was that one where you were just given carte blanche to do what you like?
Yeah, he sent me some pictures that his kids they wanted it more than him. I think he sort of said to his kids, "What do you want me to get on my helmet?" And they sent me these images. So again, it was trying to make it look right on the helmet. It's got like a Stilo forced air scoop on the top of the helmet, even though the helmet's a bell. I just put it on there because it kind of helped me get that shape a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it kind of fitted in with the design, but he just let me do what I wanted really with it. It came out pretty cool, but I'm not a Star Wars, Star Trek. Like, I didn't even know what it was. I had to Google what it was. I didn't know. I'd never seen it before. I'm that far away from it, but he was happy.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I said I'm one of the few people that's not a huge Star Wars fan either. I mean, I'm sort of know bits and pieces of it, all my mates and my brother and everything. But it's cracking bit. Well, I love that, and something different as well, which is always good to see. Right, just a quick one. I'm very aware of the time. We've been chatting for ages, as we tend to do on these things. But yeah, Brilliant stuff. Looking forward to seeing the Alton Park one this weekend, as and when it gets announced. But yeah, very, very cool thing to do. The race by race ones, round by round. So yeah, love it. Right, just to get back to the racing, we always end up with some fun questions just towards the end here. Did you have a favourite driver growing up? I mean, you mentioned what era you were in with 93 and F1.
Yeah, Damon Hill, probably. I was a big Damon Hill fan for quite a long time. Hung over the back of the fence at Silverstone in 94, waiting for him to sign something. And then his son, Josh, ended up racing Formula Ford. And I ended up racing against Josh. And I was in race control, and Damon Hill was stood right there. And it was kind of like, oh, like, I think I told him in 94, I waited like 3 hours just for you to sign my program. And he was just stood there like, all right.
Wow.
And I actually spoke to Josh Hill yesterday because I'm doing a helmet for him for some stuff that he's doing, some historic stuff he's doing. And when I was talking to Josh about what he wanted, Josh was like, oh, I want it like this, like my dad and my granddad. Like we would talk about our dad and our granddad, but I thought, well, that's Damon Hill and Graham Hill. It's crazy.
That's quite a That's quite a granddad.
Yeah, I know the helmet.
That's one that you need to know, isn't it? I mean, I can't imagine just sort of talking about granddad and granddad being Graham Hill.
And Damon Hill. Yeah, no, I was a huge Damon Hill fan, I think. And then after that, no one really, I don't think. I quite liked what Dario had done, the Scottish thing to go to IndyCar. So I suppose Dario a little bit. But yeah, no one really stands out. There was never I wasn't like this mad Senna fan or anything. In fact, I wasn't really a Senna fan because he was stopping my man Damon from winning, you know?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, that didn't too good grasp it.
Yeah. I mean, just go back to the grandfather thing. I had Freddie Hunt on here and he kept referring to Dad.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
And it was like, that's James Hunt.
Yeah.
And it's weird. If you see Freddie, we all know what he looks. Yeah, he's got the same hair. But I was having a chat with him on here. And if you close your eyes, it's James. It's terrifying. It sounds exactly the same. Incredible. Yeah, cool guy. Do you have a favourite driver now? This is very tricky because you work with a lot of
them. No, I don't. No, they all harass me in the same way. Yeah, I don't think I do. No, not really. I mean, Formula One. I suppose Hamilton. You know, I think you've got to have a better respect for what he's done. Schumacher. I did like Schumacher for a while, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really. No.
Fair enough.
Have
you got a favourite car that you've raced thus far?
I've got to grips with the Mini, so I enjoy the Mini now. But I think the Formula Renault, like with all the aero and just being so fast and just massive grip, and that was quite cool.
Yeah, awesome. This might be a silly question. Have you got a favourite circuit to race at?
Yeah, Alton Park. I'm joking. Obviously not Kill. But Alton is a close second. I really like Alton Park. I like that part of the country, and I just like the circuit. But how could it not be Not Kill?
Yeah, it has to be. And even if it didn't work there, I'm sure I think it would be high up on the list because, as I said, it's a terrific place to go racing. Okay, two more. Is there a series that you would like to have a go at or have? I mean, obviously F1 will blast an F1 car, but would you go back to single seat or obviously BTCC? Maybe would you like to have a go at NASCAR or something or
touring cars? I think that's what I want to do. I think that's where I want to try to end up in touring cars. But I like the look of the TCR car as well. I think it looks really good, and knowing the likes of Lewis Brown and the guys that I raced minis with last year, speaking to them about TCR car, they've got a lot of good things to say about it. So I think it's very much like front wheel drive stuff. I wouldn't go back. I had a couple of chances to do some one-off races in a 1600 Formula Ford again. I don't think I want to do it. That seems like a lifetime ago. I don't know if it would be too. I'm too old to go back and learn how to. Just moving forward.
Yeah, good stuff. Just on the TCR, I was invited to the media day, which is very cool at Donington. Thank you to the TCR guys for that. And I got taken around. I had 3 hot laps with Brad Hutchison in the Audi.
I've raced against Brad. I wouldn't be getting in the car with him.
He is. He's underrated. He is. it was throwing it down. It was
He
almost a
won
river.
in JCW. He won at Snetterton a couple of years ago. It goes forgotten that he won there.
Yeah, and then he's moved up and he's in the Audi now, and it was throwing it down, absolutely throwing it down at Donington. And I thought, oh, hello, I think the connection dropped out there. I'm gonna bring you back in. There we go. Happy days. Yeah, it was throwing it down at Donington. I thought, typical. These hot laps are going to be cancelled. And honestly, it was the bit, Craner, you go down round to the right, and just before you drop left down, the back steps out, and I instantly just, and he just,
I do that in the driver's seat.
And he was just so calm, and I thought it was fantastic doing it and going up round Donington, and the braking, and you almost headbutt the speed. But I thought, well, he won't do that again. And he went down Craner and he did it again. He was doing it on purpose. And I didn't realise he was laughing his head off the whole time he was doing it.
Sounds like Brad, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. He's quite a quiet chap, but what a great driver. But yeah, TCR cars. Yeah, very, very cool. Right, last one. You've raced against a lot of good drivers. Is there one that you'd like to race against? And who's the best that you think you've raced against it?
The best. I don't know about the best because I don't want to insult anyone and all the rest of it. Disclaimer, and Dan's also doing a great job this year, and the guys last year were doing great jobs. But one guy that I'll always remember is Kenny Thirlwell. Probably never heard of Kenny. Raced in Scottish Minis, and this guy was he beat me 3 years in a row. And he never sneezed in 3 years. He didn't run wide in 3 years. He never messed up a qualifying session in 3 years. He was he used to do his fastest lap in descending order throughout the race. It was just epic, and he used to drive me crazy, but he was really, really quick. He's one of these guys that can do anything. He now races bikes at Scottish Championship level, and he's winning in that. It's just
wow.
Just
really quick to do it.
Yeah, super fast. I think he's won 10 Scottish car championships. And then in his late 20s, early 30s, went to race bikes. So yeah, super quick.
As you do. I mean, wow, incredible. And very quickly, is there one driver, say on the current touring car grid, that you'd like to race against? Do you think it would be great to have a bit of a battle with him? I don't know, going through Duffus or Craner.
Sounds like a nightmare. No, I don't think I want to do that with any of them. No, not really. I've raced against a few of them, and I don't think so. No, there's no one that jumps into my mind that I particularly want to race with. No, but I'd like to get there and have a go at all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be, and I think we'd all like to see that. We'd all like to see it, but obviously we'll see how it all falls.
I'm playing the long game, as you can see.
Yes. No, fingers crossed. No, fantastic. We've been here for a couple of hours. It's been brilliant speaking with you, Joe. Thank you for sparing. I mean, I know how busy you are with the helmets and everything, but thank you for sparing a couple of hours and having a chat. And
no problem. Enjoyed it. Saves me painting.
Yeah, it
nice to sit
gets
down.
you to look a bit further away.
Yeah.
Sorts the eyes out. But obviously, wish you all the very best for the for the rest of the season. Obviously, starting this weekend at Alton Park. Hope the results continue on the upward trend, and there can be a championship at the end of it. So,
hope so. I'll keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we wish you the continued success with the business as well. And keep up the fantastic work. I love looking at helmets. I'm one of these lads who could name all the F1 helmets in 1988. So yeah, it's my kind of thing. But brilliant stuff. Brilliant
Thanks
stuff.
for having me on.
A quick one. Just got a quick one from the guys at Hybrid Tune. It says you're having an amazing season. We're all super proud, and you're pretty decent at helmet painting too. See you on Friday and start packing. Yes, that.
Yeah, go home and start packing, and I will see you on Friday morning.
Great stuff. That's a great way to end it. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Always appreciate your support, as always. And we should have another one next week, but we've definitely got one in 2 weeks. So do stick with us. And thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the weekend's racing. And, of course, thank you again to you, Joe. It's been great speaking with you.